rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to American Perspective. And I gotta tell you, for a Tuesday, it's awful quiet over in the Rumble chat. Yeah. Some people aren't paying close attention. They admit it. It's okay. I get it. It's fine. It's just normally when I get ready to go, the chat's already, a page or two down, but everybody's being real quiet today. Oh, don't know why. Ah, well, that's fine. No, I understand. Life goes on, man. Life is out there, and you got to go get it. And I am just a minor part in your priority lists for everybody, for sure. Anyway, that was lists. Yes, multiples. No. Anyway. All right. Let's see. What do we got on tap for tonight? Oh, well, Florida. Ron DeSantis in Florida. Yeah, they're getting into the trolling game. You know how Trump is a troller, master troller, unlike a master debater where you have to put the space in between. This is a master troller. Anyway, they're getting up into master trolling status. I got that. And then, this whole thing with the abolishing of the Senate. I got a little bit on that as well. A little bit of history in that for you on it. And plus, we've got, let's see, there's a couple things that are out there that are kind of hanging within the world that I just want to collect for you here for tonight. So let's go ahead and get things kicked off tonight. None other than the matriarch of the Whiskey Warrior P1 clan. That's right. It's Ms. Bonnie. Ms. Bonnie is up for reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand. Remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Ms. Bonnie as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and I thank you, Ms. Bonnie, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting or performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and attach it to an email, and then address that email to me by sending it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation. I have 25 of these wonderful items. I'd like to get 26 by the end of 2026. So if you haven't done yours yet, boy, I'd sure appreciate it. And if you use your phone to record said recitation of the pledge, don't forget you can use the share option. That's the S-H-A-R-E option. The share option will send it also to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation as quickly as possible. All right. Now, tonight I'm wearing the, let's see, Liberty or Death 1776 shirt that I have here. I couldn't remember what was underneath it. But anyway. So there you go. All right. And for tonight's headline sponsor, none other than The American View. That's right. TheAmericanView.com is where you can go to check out The American View. Now, what is The American View? Well, first of all, it was formerly known as the Institute on the Constitution. And what they do now is they help people because they are an independent educational organization dedicated to the objective, textual, and historical study of the foundational documents of the United States. And now you see why I back these guys. I mean, seriously. Anyway, they utilize a rigorous primary source methodology, and their mission is to examine the original context, personal correspondence, legal frameworks, and this is the important one, Judeo-Christian philosophical traditions that guided the framers during the creation of the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights. That's right, and you can join them. You can help them get out their information and their mission by becoming a defender of truth, liberty, and God-given rights. Purchase their U.S. Constitution course for just $76. That's right. That's a low price for the 250th anniversary of this great nation. $76 for their U.S. Constitution course. You want to know what you're buying? Well, it's pretty easy. You can get the first lesson for free. There you go, learning from the founders. All you have to do is enter your first name, last name, and your email in this box, which you can get to by theamericanview.com/study, STUDY, and get lesson 1 free. Click that button after filling it in, and boy, let me tell you, it ships right to your email box, your inbox. The first lesson goes right to your inbox. Learn at your own pace with their nationally recognized 100% online course. And like I said, you can buy the student manual for reference and everything else down the road, you know, because sometimes at some point in life, everybody goes through this. You get to a point where your memory isn't exactly the best. So it's really cool to have that study guide hanging out so that you can reference it for generations to come. And once you've done all that and you go to their other courses, you might want to think about joining their community. That's right. You can donate or be a sponsor. You can become a member, or even better yet, leave a legacy, folks. Leave a legacy. Restore the constitutional republic and prepare the future by hosting a course in your community. Become an instructor. That's right. Becoming an instructor takes 3 easy steps. Right here. Institute on the Constitution, how to become an IOTC instructor. Well, it's actually the American View instructor now. But just watch that video and you'll be able to learn how easy it is to become an instructor. And then head on over to the 5 tips for a successful class. That video helps to prepare you and get ready. And even better yet, they have an instructor kit available for you where you can purchase the instructor kit and you will have a structured approach to teaching the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, dispelling all the myths perpetuated by the left and the mainstream media. Includes detailed instructions for each lesson, a host manual, and a flash drive with all kinds of essential materials. Ideal for people wanting to become an instructor, I'm telling you, just and for those who are eager just to pass on this crucial knowledge. Where do you get that? Well, you head on over to theamericanview.com/shop. That's right. Go to their shop. You can pick up the U.S. Constitution course, other educational resources that they have available, and believe me, they have a lot. You can go to self-evident apparel, instructor materials, and my personal favorite, right here above my head, the Legacy Library. Oh, it's filled with all kinds of leather objects. Oh, I love my leather. Yeah, leather Declaration of Independence, the leather Bill of Rights, the leather Magna Carta, the leather U.S. Constitution. All of those are wall hangings. But I recommend you start off with the leather-bound U.S. Constitution. right here. This is a pocket-sized Constitution. It is rounded cornered. According to my Whiskey Warrior P1s, those are sexy rounded corners. 3 Chevy states each rounded cornered book purchased will cause a liberal to have an inappropriate gastrointestinal dysfunction. Believe me, you don't want to be there when that happens. But you can check out this wonderful object. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. No cheap glue here, folks. That is stitching. That is all the way through the book and the pages contained within. It has a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that if you have a problem with this item, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved. My youngest Whiskey Warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will help you study for and achieve your civics badge in Scouts, as well as your civics test. And hey, why not go for all 3? Naturalization test too. I'm telling you, this thing is jam-packed with all kinds of information. You get that 3-fer. Head on over to theamericanview.com/shop and then hit the Legacy Library. I promise you, you won't regret it. You can carry this thing around and you can leave it as a family heirloom. Pass it down from generation to generation. It's a great reference guide and resource book. I reference it all the time. I got so many copies of not this book, but so many copies of the Constitution, but this is my overall favorite. It is constructed extremely well and will last the test of time, just like the Constitution itself has. Head on over to theamericanview.com, check out all of their products and services, and I thank them for being a sponsor of this program. Alrighty. Well, let's start off with Florida. Yes, Ron DeSantis. Well, I'm going to say Ron DeSantis is the one that did it, but let's be honest, it was probably his media people. Anyway, apparently, at least according to statistical analysis, New York City has been sending a lot of their people to Florida. Now, you know, if you're a New York City person and you head down to Florida and you're a leftist lunatic, don't vote. Just don't New York, Florida. Okay, Florida is one of the bastions of freedom and liberty and Americanism and all kinds of stuff. You know, they love the stars and stripes and all kinds of things down there. They do not want any of your liberal lunacy. Let me just put it that way. But at least Florida has realized that, well, they have to actually thank Ma'am Danny. That's right. New York Mayor Ma'am Danny. He has been chosen as Florida's Economic Developer of the Year. That's right. So many businesses apparently and people have been leaving New York City that, well, Florida has capitalized with capitalism from those that have left New York City. This is an image that I'm showing on screen right now of the billboard that was purchased in Times Square with this ad. So, every time that Ma'am Danny, you know, the socialist idiot over there in New York City goes to Times Square, at least until the money runs out, this will be shown in Times Square. Bright blue, white, and red, saying, hey, thank you, Mayor Ma'am Danny, for sending us all of your business. Oh boy. That's what they need. Seriously, that's what they need. Oh, gotta love it. Yeah, the Florida Chamber of Commerce, by the way, launched that campaign to remind the city how progressive taxes and socialist policies are driving wealth, businesses, and families down to the Sunshine State. That's right. Now, it sits at the corner of Broadway and West 43rd, greeting in tens of thousands of residents and visitors that move through that area every single day. The goal is to highlight the vastly different economic results achieved when a government allows free enterprise to flourish, like Florida, as opposed to what happens when government reaches its tentacles into every part of life and squeezes the oxygen and money right out of it, like New York City. So, anyway, yeah. Florida is apparently sitting on a $1.8 trillion economy and is enjoying a huge amount of wealth migration into the state. So the chamber of, what was it called? Yeah, the Chamber of Commerce, knew that it was the right time and place to point that out. So the Chamber of Commerce CEO Mark Wilson first told Fox News Digital on Monday, "We wanted to thank him for the jobs, the companies, and the people that they're pushing out of New York, and a lot of them are coming to Florida." He says, "America is at a crossroads right now, and I think everyone that's paying attention knows our country was built on freedom and free enterprise, and people having the liberty to make their dreams come true. And there's a push in our country right now to take those liberties away and attack free enterprise. And that's never worked anywhere, and it won't work. It won't work in America." There you go. And don't forget, this isn't the first time. I mean, Florida has actually trolled both Mamdani and Cuomo back in the day when they were running against each other in that primary. And Ron DeSantis posted on X, just when you thought Palm Beach real estate couldn't go any higher, and he posted those two being in the running, with Mamdani overtaking Cuomo in the ranked choice voting primary. Ron DeSantis also on X had posted, Mamdani is going to be Realtor of the Year in a way. Sorry, let me restart. Mamdani is going to be Realtor of the Year in way more places than Palm Beach if he wins. Yeah. So, there you go. Yeah, just don't worry about it, Zoflake. You're fine. Trust me, we're being critical of you because you are an idiot. Anyway. Now, Mamdani hasn't said anything as of yet that we know of about this new honor, but let's be honest. Zoflake, yeah, he's probably not going to be too happy once he figures it out. Anyway. Whatever. So now a spokesperson did say something, though. Spokesperson said, "By any metric, New York City's economy under Mayor Mamdani is as strong as it's ever been. We look forward to continuing to grow the economy while ensuring that working class New Yorkers are benefiting from that growth." Yeah, right. Sure. Yeah. And by the way, Florida doesn't even have to make this stuff up. I mean, this isn't even fantasy land here, people. The numbers are actually speaking for themselves. So, yeah. Okay. All right. Whatever, Zoflake. Have fun. You got to have fun with some of these people. You really do. All right. Let's get a little serious here. Apparently, there was a credible enough threat. Not like Trump doesn't live under credible threats all the time, but there was a credible enough threat to the president's life that, well, the Secret Service employed a rather, let's say, ingenious methodology to get him to switch planes. Now, why they're telling us this, I have no idea. I don't know how this came to light, but this is one of the problems that we have with an open society, with a society that is sitting here where we basically are, open and available for information. But apparently, President Trump was secretly whisked off of the normal Air Force One 747 plane at an airport. When it was down, he apparently was taken in a airport catering truck. Now, this was last month when he was departing Turkey. And that catering truck delivered him to the other plane, which was an Air Force C-32A. And he switched over to that other plane, and unbeknownst to anybody. So, essentially, the secret mission, which was reported by the Washington Post yesterday, said that the journalists and even the White House staff that were on the Air Force One, well, it's not called Air Force One when the president is on it, but that's what I'm going to refer to it for the moment. The normal Air Force One plane, they all thought that they were on the same plane. Yeah, this was when they departed the annual NATO summit on July 8th. Now, all of that being the case, Trump was on the smaller Air Force C-32A, and the elaborate ruse saw Trump publicly board the older model of Air Force One before being smuggled out in a catering truck that had been lifted up to a door on the opposite side of the entrance to the presidential plane. Now, Trump was accompanied by several aides in the container, which was then lowered, because, you've seen those. Here's an image just to give you an idea. There we go. Here's an image of it. You've seen these things. I know anybody who's flown has seen these things. These trucks can lift their entire container up to the level of the aircraft, where they have to load everything into the essentially the crew deck and the passenger deck. And so essentially Trump got in and then crossed over and went right back out. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty cool, honestly. I mean, I just yeah, it's pretty cool that they did that. But anyway, the C-32A, by the way, was also blue and white and emblazoned with the words United States of America as well. It was just, the older model of the presidential plane. So there you go. Pete Hegseth was apparently joined President Trump, but boarded separately using the external stairs in order to make an attempt to make the flight appear as though it was a typical flight, according to the U.S. official. So there you go. The things that they go through, man, I got to tell you, our Secret Service, they're really, really good at what they're doing. So, yeah, there was a lot of speculation originally as to why the older Air Force One plane was being used to depart Turkey rather than the new, more luxurious plane that came from Qatar. So, anyway, now the White House and everybody else is like, hey, you know what? This is not due to a threat from Iran or a security concern with the new plane or any of these things. Well, there obviously was a reason why they did it. So yeah. And by the way, just to keep in mind, that luxurious plane from Qatar is only being used until Boeing finishes up the work on the replacement planes, their permanent replacement planes. So, there you go. Anyway. Alrighty. Well, that's kind of fun. Well, speaking of Iran, there's a reason why Trump is under serious threat from these people. Oh, well, from the Ayatollahs, anyway. Well, apparently there's a misery index that Iran has. Its misery index has risen and hit a record high of 91%. It's due to rampant inflation and unemployment because of the lack of their ability to sell their oil. They have no money coming in. And, yeah. So the economic strain looks like it potentially could get worse over time because, of course, the U.S. blockade that's going on right now. But anyway, the misery index is calculated by adding a point-to-point inflation rate, which is 82% right now, with the unemployment rate, which is 9.1. And that has hit its highest level yet this year, according to the recent report from the Statistical Center of Iran. The misery index spike is notably more than double what it was last spring, and not even when Tehran, however it's pronounced, spared from the economic blow as the city's own index hit 78.3, according to provincial data. They're not happy over there. Gee, I wonder why. Oh, their economy, according to this New York Post article, has been in free fall since last year, with its rival currency falling to record low levels. The real currency. I don't know why I said what I said. Anyway, as the cost of basic commodities soars. The value of Iran's currency has fallen to 185,000 rials to the U.S. dollar. Wow. A drop of about 20% since the start of the war, according to the U.S. Treasury. So, economic fury is causing problems. So, yeah. And apparently, grocery prices specifically has shot up since the war broke out. Bread is up 140% over there. Dairy is up 116.8%. Food and drink prices overall are up 9%, according to the Statistical Center of Iran. And food inflation overall reached 134% nationwide in July, with rural areas being hit the hardest. Iran's labor ministry also said that about 1 million jobs have been lost as a direct result of the war with the U.S. So we're hurting them. They're not happy. And honestly, I probably wouldn't be either under all of that. All right. Well, let's shift gears here. Let's shift gears here. I've talked a couple nights, a couple of topics or a couple of issues on Fauci's iPhone. In particular, is questioning the efficacy of the vaccine with regards to causing potential miscarriages in the first trimester should you get the booster. And, remember that what he said privately didn't make it into the public. Publicly, he was saying, oh, yeah, there's nothing to indicate any kinds of issues. Go ahead, jab yourself with this thing. It's cool. I mean, I'm paraphrasing completely, but, But what is interesting, not really, I mean, this isn't any surprise to anybody in the biz, let's say, is the fact that the top TV AM and PM shows, meaning the morning and evening shows, are completely silent on those pregnancy findings that popped up. Well, let's be honest, they're pretty much, they don't want to say anything about anything when it comes to, COVID, or that they were wrong, or that they advocated for something that never should have been advocated for, etc., etc. Anyway, well, this is no surprise. Once again, in order to get any kind of information, any kind of truthful information, you need to go to independence. You need to get away and break away from this idea that the mainstream media has got your back, because believe me, they don't. And this is just yet another example as to why. You don't want this at all. I'm telling you. You don't want this at all. And so, seriously. This is so frustrating to think that we went through, 3 or 4 years of that, lost countless number of educational hours for our children. And I mean, it's bad enough that the public school system can't even train our kids to do math and reading and science and history and hell, even civics appropriately and properly. But then you add to that the fact that they had to do all of this remotely, Google Meet or Google Hangouts or whatever the heck it was. All of that stuff. Just sickening. And then, of course, come the vaccines. Oh, yeah, they're 100% safe. Go ahead. Take them. Meanwhile, you find out that it had the from the doctor who was supposed to be the doctor, not higher than Jill Biden, of course, because Jill Biden's the doctor to end all doctors. I mean, she's a doctor of education. And so, she knows doctors more about doctoring than any other doctors, even medical doctors, because she's the doctor of all doctors. But anyway, the thing about it is that Fauci, in his private notes, were pointing out that, hey, this thing just happens to be a little worse than the flu. Because remember, in his diary, he was saying, well, the flu actually takes a 0.1%. That's the death rate of the normal flu. But this one is at 0.2, not the 2% that they were talking about, but 0.2%. So, yeah. Anyway, well, all I got to say is, man, I am glad that I didn't trust any of that. Whew. Anyway, all right. I chose to use my own brain and critical thinking skills to question stuff. All right. Before I get into my next topic, apparently there is a person that is part of the Whiskey Warrior extended family. Seems as though the matriarch has a friend who has been moved into hospice. So, folks, if you would, please, I would appreciate, and so would she, as well as the rest of the Whiskey Warriors, if you would take a moment and just pray for her soul and her to hopefully maybe she gets better and comes back from this. But if at the very least, and the good Lord decides to take her, may she go quickly and without very much pain, if any at all. So, yeah, take a moment, say a prayer, and we pray for her and her recovery, hopefully. And if she does end up going and leaving and heading toward the Lord, then we ask the Lord for sure to provide comfort for those that she has left behind. That almost sounded like a prayer by itself, so I almost want to say, in Jesus' name we pray. Maybe it was. There we go. Amen. All right. Trump. Yes, Trump has been calling out the Democrats for nominating all of these jihadists who essentially want to get rid of the Senate. Now, he claims that they are at a midterm disadvantage. I don't know for sure about that. I think it's going to be state by state dependent. I know that some of them are. But here's the thing, and this is something that these leftists don't seem to understand. Because let's face it, they do not have a clear, proper grasp on the historical significance of the Constitution, how it came about, what it says. They don't read it because, as my Whiskey Warrior 3 Chevy is fond of saying, they get gastrointestinal dysfunctions when they even touch the thing. But all of that being said, let's talk a little bit about the Senate. And what a lot of people don't seem to understand, because we've grown up for a very long time under the auspices of the fact that we vote for our senators, meaning the public, and our House of Representatives, our congressmen. But it wasn't always that way. In fact, the original design of the Constitution, the Senate, known as the upper chamber, was to be comprised of and be an advocate for the states. Not the people, but the states. What do they mean by the states? What that means is, originally, under the original Constitution, the senators were selected from the state legislatures. Meaning that the state legislatures would convene, get together, they'd pick their representatives that were going up to Congress, and it was going to be the state's representative in the federal government. See, the people already had their representatives. That's the House of Representatives, which has 435 members, apportioned based off of population. And then the other 100, which was an equal breakdown of 2 senators per state. Not 5, not 7, but 2. That's it. That's all any one state got. And the reason for this is because of the fact that the states, when they all got together and they started talking about the Senate, they were like, okay, well, wait a minute. If the Senate was proportioned like the House of Representatives would be, then you would have a state like Rhode Island or Connecticut that would only have 1 senator, in comparison to states like, well, at the time, Virginia or New York, that might have 2 or 3. And so they basically said, no, that isn't going to work. Apportionment for state representation is not going to work, because then you have 1 state or 2 states or 5 states that have more representation within the federal government than the other smaller states that aren't represented appropriately. And so the compromise was struck that they would use the number 2. You would have 2 senators per state. That's it. No more, no less. Well, further, when they wrote about all of this, okay, and comes down the line in terms of some time, well, that choice, meaning that the states choose their legislative representatives in the federal government, that got overturned. That original design got overturned by the 17th Amendment on April 8th of 1913. Now, it took a while for it to filter through, because what they ended up doing is they kind of did a rolling process, because senators are voted for 6-year terms. And so what they did essentially is you would go in for being a senator, you would serve a 6-year term, and then you'd be up for re-election again. But the states, in terms of which state had senators that were up for re-election, rotated every couple of years. just like the regular cycle does, where it's every 4 years for presidential, and then we have what we call the midterm elections. The reason why we call them a midterm is because it's in the middle of the president's term. And these midterm elections, only certain states at certain times are being elected, so that the entire Senate, and honestly the House of Representatives too, but the entire Senate wasn't replaced all at once. It was a rolling replacement should these people get voted out over time as they go along. Well, part of the reason why it was changed from the original was that there was electoral deadlocks in each house, legislative house. For an example, there were some Senate seats prior to this that were left vacant for months or years. Delaware and Indiana being the worst of that situation. And additionally, the indirect system faced growing criticism due to allegations of, surprise, surprise, bribery, corruption, undue influence by political machines and special interests within the state legislatures. And so what ended up happening is they decided to sign the 17th Amendment and change the Constitution to allow the senators to be voted on by the people. However, there's a bit of a problem here. See, these leftist lunatics, they want to get rid of the Senate. They want to get rid of it completely. And they think that they can abolish the Senate. Now, to be completely honest, if they succeed in abolishing the Constitution, then that by default abolishes the Senate. However, if they can't abolish the Constitution, which, let's be honest, abolishing the Constitution would basically mean that everybody would, the entire country would be in another civil war. I mean, government would be completely broken down at that point. However, if they were to go and say, hey, we want to make a constitutional amendment first that abolishes the Senate, well, they may not be able to do it. They probably can't do it. Constitutionally speaking, it would be very tough. So, somebody would ask me, well, why? Why is that the case? How is it that we have this? Well, there is a sentence within Article 5 of the Constitution that, well, sort of negates the ability to create an amendment that can destroy the Senate. See, here in Article 5, and this is the last two sentences, but the first of these two sentences talks about, hey, we're not going to allow any amendments prior to the year 1808. See, that would have affected the Constitution's limitation on Congress's power to A, restrict the slave trade, and B, levy certain taxes on land or slaves. So that was something that the founders built in Article 5. They couldn't actually amend the Constitution prior to 1808. However, there is a second sentence. And by the way, that first sentence, oh yeah, that's long since expired because, again, we're way past 1808. But there is a second sentence, which remains in effect right here. And that is that it prohibits amendments that would deprive the states, without their consent, from having what's called equal suffrage in the Senate. So, in other words, there's no possible amendment that can be written to the Constitution that can remove any particular state's coverage and representation within the Senate without that particular state saying, yeah, you know what, we no longer want our senators. So the state itself would have to approve this amendment, but it's only on individual states. So they can't go and pass an amendment that would cross all the states unless all of the states agreed. Now, this is different than the 3/4 requirement of an amendment. See, the amendment process itself says you need 2/3 of each house of the Congress, meaning 2/3 of the House of Representatives, 2/3 of the Senate, in order to pass it. Then it needs to go and get ratified by 3/4 of the states. But in this particular case, that amendment can never fly. Because here it basically says, hey, the states must, it's guaranteed, you must have equal suffrage in the Senate. Now, somebody would be like, what the heck is suffrage? Well, for those of you who haven't done history, you'll remember the women's suffrage movement, potentially. That was a movement in order to give all women across all states the ability to vote. That's what the word suffrage means. That's its primary, according to Webster's 1828 dictionary. That is the primary meaning of the word suffrage, as you can see right here. It says a vote, a voice, given in deciding a controversial question or in the choice of a man for an office or trust. That's what suffrage means. So, in other words, the Congress, or at least the Senate, is 100% guaranteed to exist and survive regardless, as long as the Constitution is in play. You cannot remove a state's representation in Congress unless the state by itself agrees. That's all. So, yeah, go ahead, leftist lunatics. Sure, go for it. You want to try? You'll get pulled into court over this. They cannot make an amendment under the Constitution that abolishes the Senate, because that would abolish the state's voting right. Yeah. Now, some scholars have kind of questioned whether or not that would actually, it's been kind of like, well, some scholars, it's never been challenged in court because it's never had the ability to be challenged in court as of yet. So some scholars actually debate whether or not the clause itself could be repealed via a two-step amendment process. But again, requirement for individual state consent, meaning all 50 states individually would have to consent to this in order to lose their representation in Congress. Oh, that Constitution, it seems like every time I read it and every time I find something new within it, I realize how divine our framers must have been. Not divine as in divine themselves, but how they were guided by the divine, by God, by the Creator. Because these men were either extreme geniuses across most, if not all of them, or they were led by a great force. In my mind, God, because of the Judeo-Christian values and principles that we are founded upon. It's just amazing how many things, very simply put, but how many things were anticipated and accounted for in the Constitution. And what's just as amazing is how far these leftist idiots want to go in order to break this stuff down. And it's like, you can't. You can't. Anyway. All right. Well, you'll recall a long time ago during the debate about the Dobbs decision and the Roe v. Wade decision and whether or not Dobbs was going to overturn Roe v. Wade. Well, we all know how that turned out. But during the debate, there were a lot of people, especially those who were in the pro-life section, who basically said, hey, look, you guys, meaning you abortion advocates, you don't care whether the baby is going to be, taken prior to the first trimester, the second trimester. There's abortions that are even happening up until the third trimester. And the leftists would all be like, no, that's not happening. Nobody would do that. I mean, seriously, that's a baby all the way up to birth? Are you crazy? Are you nuts? Just like when Roe v. Wade got passed. Oh, no, it was supposed to be safe, legal, and most importantly, rare. But no. Well, just like all the time with all leftists, they lied. Democratic Governor Maura Healey signs a Massachusetts bill that allows abortions all the way up to the moment of birth. By the way, Massachusetts isn't the only one. They became the 10th state to remove any kind of age limits at all. So that means you could be in labor. Baby comes out, and you're like, baby's halfway out. I mean, let's be serious here. Baby's halfway out, and then all of a sudden the mother goes, I don't want it. There you go. Abortion is allowed. These people are sick. Just all I got to say. Sick and disgusting. They want to murder people or murder babies. Innocent babies. All the way up to the moment of birth. All the way up to the moment of birth. And in some cases, it doesn't even specify that. In some of these laws, it doesn't even specify that. But anyway, where we are so far away from our Judeo-Christian principles, values, and roots, it's not even funny, folks. It really isn't. Horrible, horrible stuff. And you idiots who are out there voting for these Dems, you're voting for this stupid crap. Really are. All right. Well, I don't know if anybody heard about this, but there was a landmark case that was decided against Meta because of Meta's addictive properties. And a lot of people looked at that and they thought, wow, okay, well, that's a landmark case. One. But now a U.S. appeals court yesterday, I say that right, U.S. appeals court on Monday allowed thousands of lawsuits to move forward against the Meta platforms, meaning Facebook, Instagram, that kind of stuff, Alphabet's Google, and ByteDance's TikTok, as well as other social media companies, over claims that they design their products to be addictive to young users. Now, I can tell you that the addictive properties of these applications, they're definitely there. Trust me. And the young users, they fall into it. The more likes they get, the better off they feel, the more they go back, the more they post, and so on and so forth. And it becomes literally a time suck, which is an addiction. No different than if you were to be addicted to, say, cocaine. You would be looking for that next high. And there are kids, I'm calling them kids, that are out there that all they do, that's all they're looking for. And trust me, when they hit that high, when they get to that, oh my gosh, I've got 1 million likes and so on and so forth, then they look for the next one and the next one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals rejected the company's bid to reverse a lower court's ruling that was forcing them to face more than 3,000 lawsuits over claims of addiction in federal court, concluding that the appeal case came too early in the litigation. The defendants, which also include Snapchat, had argued that Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996 generally shields online companies from claims over content posted by their users, that it also bans lawsuits claiming that they failed to warn the public about the addictive nature of their platforms. More appeals keep coming. Yeah. So this is probably may go all the way to the Supreme Court, to be honest with you, because I'm sure Meta is not going to let this go. But yeah. Now, the court also denied Meta's bid to postpone a trial beginning tomorrow in a lawsuit that was brought by 29 state attorneys general, alleging that the company illegally collected and used children's data, designed their social media platforms to keep young users hooked, and misled consumers about their safety. Yeah. Thousands of lawsuits possibly coming. And in our final moments, I got a dumb question, but why do people always want to turn to the federal government as though it is the savior of all problems? This article here in Breitbart, tech companies want the federal government to sort out the AI-driven memory chip shortage. For those of you that don't know, because of all the data centers, all the AI data centers that are being built, there is a massive chip shortage across the entire world, because everything in terms of the RAM, what's random access memory and computer chips, it makes your computer run faster if you have the faster chips, bigger chips, etc. But it's involved in everything. These chips, these computer chips, are in everything electronic. Everything runs some sort of code. Almost every single electronic device that you have, including cars, even U.S. weapon systems, or any weapon systems in the world, so on and so forth. And yeah. This is a memory chip shortage that's been affecting a lot of people. Networking products, computers, cell phones, everything. And they want the federal government, these tech companies want the federal government to do something. I don't think it's the federal government's job. And in fact, if you look into the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, I don't see anything in there that says the federal government must intervene because of supply chain shortages. Just saying. All righty, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget to check out my new streaming platform, pilled.net. That's PILLED.net. Go and check them out. Maybe sign up for an account. See if you like it. And we'll see you over there. Before you take off, don't forget to give me a thumbs up or a red pill. Thumbs down or a blue pill. or a thumb sideways or at an angle if you're 3 Chevy across all my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, pilled.net, or the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.